Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. I'm Jim Hayes. Kyle Gibson is off pitching somewhere. We got to get that guy into the mix at some point. But with us right now, Cardinal Hall of Famer Matt Holliday and future Cardinal Hall of Famer Lynn. Gentlemen, it was easy to get this show rolling, except Matt Holliday had a problem.
Per usual. Super easy.
How did Lance get on so easily?
I don't know. Apparently you guys, the internet hates me, maybe, or you guys don't know what you're doing. I don't know.
Oh, I think we were closer in proximity. That's probably what it was.
There
Yeah,
it
I
is.
bet
Took
it's
a little
got to
while
be
to get to Oklahoma.
There
got
it
to
is.
be proximity. So it's tax day, Lance. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I just filed a extension, so we'll get it all figured out eventually.
Why an extension?
We're still waiting on half the stuff from everything you get throughout the season from MLB that likes to show up like this week instead of last month when you needed it. So still waiting for all your donations and all that to come through, but we got
Wait a
it all
second.
situated.
You do your own taxes?
No, I don't do my own taxes.
Well, how do you know all this?
I just know that all my tax stuff gets sent here and then I have to forward it. And it usually takes a while to get here. So we file an extension just to make sure.
There's got to be a better system than that for a rich guy like you.
It's called retirement. You don't have to worry about MLB giving you all your stuff.
Somebody's got
Are
to do
you
that for you, don't they?
Oh, do my taxes? Yeah. But
No. All that you just said. I mean, I try not to worry about anything.
well, yeah, I just got to make sure I check the mail and then I forward it.
Oh yeah, I don't check the mail either.
There
are
you go.
you squared away? Are you aware that your taxes have been properly filed and that you're not a felon, Matt?
I'm not. I'm putting that in the hands of other people. So that's dangerous, I think, at times could be, but I don't know. I
think
like
we
to
have the
think
same
that I
people do
pay.
our taxes, do we not? We have the
Yeah, I
same
mean that's
person.
what I mean. I'm a little concerned at this point now. I thought we had the same people and that all that was taken care of, but you just named off a lot of things.
I'm not doing my own taxes. I just get still like I still got all my some reason all my stuff gets sent here. Like your PA stuff, all of your donation stuff throughout the year. It comes to my address that the PA has on file, and then I have to forward it on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that right now. So you're good.
I'm concerned. I don't want to say the wrong term, but both of you have accumulated wealth from your ability to play baseball. Matt, tell me, do you have like a team of guys, one watching the other? Do you have all your trust into one guy who lives in Vegas? I hope you're doing this in a smart way.
Yeah. You know,
Well, what
um,
is it? Do you have a team? One guy watching the other? There's a lawyer, an accountant, or do you have one guy named Nick who you met in Vegas and you gave him your money? Please tell me you're safe.
Nick seemed like a smart guy. I mean, what do you want me to say? He told me
Big Dick Nick knows everything, baby.
he had. I mean, I bought some. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think Nick's doing a good job as far as I know.
All I know is the credit card's still swiping, and my
Yeah,
house is still standing, baby. Everything's
yeah.
fine.
You guys take care of that pile of money you have
Wait,
invested.
you
I
don't do
don't
your own taxes?
know, but I watch what the guy does, okay? And
Who's
then
watching him?
I got another guy that looks at that. Now, if they're in cahoots, they could get over on me. But I like to have a couple of eyes on these things because I trust nobody. Is don't trust Nick, even though he's a wonderful guy and a great American. Have a couple eyes because you guys, let's face it, have some wealth that is not just for you, but it's for generations in the future. We do have some good news, though, some interesting news about the panel. Matt Holliday has been named as hitting coach for Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. It seems like a great opportunity. Matt, what do you like about it? What are you excited about?
Well, Dero called me a couple weeks ago. Mark DeRosa, who's the manager, and said, "Hey, uh, basically, he's got a great staff. Want to know if I wanted to be the hitting coach for the World Baseball Classic." He said Skip was the bench coach, which Lance and I both have a strong affinity for little Skippy Schumaker. And named off some of the other guys on the staff for a couple weeks in Arizona and maybe a week or two in Houston. I was like, yeah, I'm in. So I think it's fun to be around those guys. Obviously, getting a chance to be around some of the best hitters in the world. I'm interested and fascinated with hitting. I'll probably mostly be flipping balls and playing and throwing batting practice and saying, "Good job, Aaron. Looks like you got a good, strong, powerful swing there, buddy." And and uh, and I told Aaron Judge, I said, "Look, first day I'm going to have to make you take a lap just to make sure we establish like our roles here." Um, I'm excited about it. Like I said, I'm a big D-Row, Skip Schumaker, Michael Young, Brian McCann, Andy Pettit. Like it's going to be a fun time. So seemed like a good opportunity. It's not overly time consuming and still get a chance to be involved with the game.
I like DeRosa. He was a
Yeah.
Cardinal for a brief period, good player. I respect all that. But you were a better player. How did this guy suddenly get to be the manager over a bunch of guys who might have better resumes? Just answer me that.
Well, he works in New York on the big network,
He's on
and
TV. He's on
yeah,
TV.
yeah. No, D-Rose a smart guy. I mean, he's a really, you don't have to be a great player to be I mean, he was a good player. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, he's a smart guy. And I think guys like him. And let's face it, like, you're managing the best players, some of the best players in the world. I mean, it's not really a ton of, like, X's and O's here. Like, I mean, if we get the best pitchers, we should be in pretty good shape. So, I don't necessarily like. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun, but it'll be on whether or not the players go out and play. I don't think our coaching is going to make a very big impact.
I'm just glad to see you have to deal with guys who are bigger than you for a change because I think that will sort of level the playing field. Now, Lance, you
Ooh,
pitched in the World Baseball Classic. What was that experience like?
It's definitely a fun time. For you. That's the second time I got to represent my country, so that was awesome. First time in the professional stage. So when you get those opportunities, you love them. You got to play with some great guys. Obviously, coaching staff is very similar to the one that is being assembled now. So they were awesome. For me, it was one of those things where I really pushed to get on it too. I had to call D-Row in the middle of a hunting trip around a campfire after a couple bourbons and tell him that I'm on the team. So that's how that worked. He's like, "Yeah, you are." So no, so I really enjoyed it. It was an amazing time. That time of year, to be able to get ramped up like that is a little difficult. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. That was awesome.
What's the difference like when you're a professional athlete, you're getting paid, you play for the city, the team, but to wear the red, white, and blue as a player representing the country, as a player, is there a different feeling?
Yeah, I think all of like the business stuff's gone, right? And Major League Baseball, you're worried about contracts, team this and that. Everybody's got their opinion. When you're going to play for the country, it's like, hey, tell me what you need from me, whether you need me to start, relieve, this or that. We're here to win games no matter what, and put me wherever you please, and I'm here to help. You obviously want to do well, and you want to be there to support your team, and that's all that matters is winning. So you say that in Major League Baseball, all that matters is winning. It is for the players, but there's a lot of other things that are out of your control, and you're also looking at making sure that you can play for a long time and have as much success as you possibly can too. So there's just a little different mentality going into it. That it's such a short little sprint too. That you're just it takes a lot out of you, but it's also amazing little time.
Major League Baseball is an international sport, right? I mean, there's no question about it with the players, the team in Canada, all that. But I just can't imagine Lance Lynn getting the opportunity to bring the Lance Lynn persona to foreign baseball fans. Did you get to share kind of who you are with the rest of the world during that time?
Yeah, I don't think Canada liked me too much after my start against them. So threw the ball well in that game. And as everybody knows, I like to scream a little bit and yell at you a little bit. So that definitely was on full display. And that was one of the main things that Dero told me. He's like, "Hey, I think the night before we lost to Mexico and our pitching, we had to use a bunch of guys, and we were kind of running short on pitching in that start too." So he goes, hey, I need you to get as many innings as you can tomorrow in 65 pitches. And I was like, cool. I'll let you know when I'm done. And I was able to get through five innings that night, and then Miles was coming in right after me, so we were able to clip a whole game with just the two of us, which was huge for our pitching staff going into the next round or the next night too. So we were covered, and we were able to go. So you're able to pick up guys and maybe make things work like that. It was awesome.
So, Matt, you guys both know Skip Schumaker. You said both you guys really like him. What is it about Skip Schumaker that everybody loves? He's the bench coach for the USA
Yeah.
team.
Well, there's a lot of things to like about Skip. Um, I mean, he's very competitive. He's tough. He's a straight shooter. He's funny. Um, he's a good dude. He loves to win. Like he's in it for the right reasons. I think he communicates really well now that he's in managing and coaching and front office stuff. I think he's smart and willing to listen and learn. I think he can speak to a lot of different people. He can talk to the players, but I also think he's very capable of speaking with ownership and the media, and he's a good communicator. He's like I said, he's fun to be around. And so I think he can do whatever he wants in baseball. If he wants to keep managing, if he wanted to get more into the front office and pursue like general manager type stuff, I think he could do that. So he's just a great guy. I mean, he's really, really smart and a great guy.
It's hard for me to believe that after what he did with Miami, and then they kind of changed the script on him, that now he's a suit with the Rangers organization. I think he should be managing. I have a feeling that we'll see him managing again someplace at some point. But Lance, I know on another podcast you kind of took a tinkle on the White Sox. You feel like doing that to the Marlins because there might be some room for that if that's your lane on this topic.
Lance, you took a tinkle on the White Sox. A little
They
tinkle.
asked me to grade each organization that I played for, and
You took a tinkle on
hey,
him.
so facto, there's got to be a team that's below
Tinkle.
everyone else,
Yeah.
and you call it a tinkle. I call it a you're below me,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. They were last of all the teams I played for. Is what I pretty much got at, and I think it's pretty obvious. So I didn't say anything anybody can't see with their own eyes. That being said, Skip, like you said, I obviously love Skip. He was great to me. You're looking at a guy who, you know, just worked so hard to have such a long, great career. And then you're looking at what he's doing, post career with managing and stuff like that. He's a baseball guy. Everybody respects him. Everybody knows what he's about, and he's just going to be honest with you. And that's always been amazing to me. And in Miami, he got dealt a tough hand. They kind of had a whole organizational change after he won manager of the year and pretty much were like, hey, sorry, but you're pretty much on your way out, which made no sense. So he got in a tough spot. And like you said, he should be a manager. I think that a lot of the spots that were open this year I think it was a good idea for him not to take them, to be honest with you, because he's going to put himself in some similar situations he is in Miami. He's had great success as a manager. He's great success as a player and doing all the stuff. So I think he's doing a good job sitting out a year, doing the front office thing. Because then when you go in to do the next cycle of managers, he should be able to pick a good spot for himself to really take over an organization in the right way.
He's a tough guy, like you mentioned that, Matt. I don't know if Cardinal fans. I know he's a tough player, but he is a tough guy. You got any Skip Schumaker stories for me? Anything that might be fun to know about Skip?
They're appropriate for a podcast.
You could. How about pseudo appropriate?
That's I don't want to. I don't want the 3 or 4 people that listen to this to take this story, you know, somewhere they shouldn't be. I'll say this: I know that Brody's a junior, his son, and that he took a year off from managing this year. But I think you'll see him back in the dugout soon. As far as stories go, I only know Skip for stories that I probably shouldn't, that aren't really for the public at this point, especially when he's in a front office and trying to get real jobs. Now, some of us, it doesn't matter if these stories get out, but I respect that Skip is still a buttoned up member of a organization that he's just willing to do just about anything for the boys. There's stories of him taking batting practice in his jock strap to take a little of the heat off the boys. Sometimes, there's some of these cages now have windows in them that are a little bit hard to see, but are open to the public. And he may or may not have had one of these incidents in New York of taking BP to get the boys loosened up a little bit with just his jock strap on. And in New York, there is a window. And I don't know if the fans had been there, got there soon enough to catch a glimpse of his little buns in that jock strap. But had they been there, they might have had the opportunity. But it's for the boys. Sometimes the fellas need a laugh before a game when we're going through a losing streak, and you gotta sacrifice for the team.
You didn't want to tell a story. I had to really force that out of you. It's not like you wanted
Actually,
to
that's
tell it
probably
from the get go.
the most appropriate one that I could think of that won't get him fired.
What the truth is, Skip is a good, clean living guy. Same about you. So whatever stories are out there, they're not going
No,
to be.
no, 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 no.
They're not.
They're
Yeah,
just funny like stories that the team, they're for the team. They're not
they're for
bad
the team.
stories.
They're
Yeah.
for the boys. They're for the
Yeah,
team. And you didn't really want to tell that one,
they're for
but
like 20-year
Yeah.
anniversaries,
Yeah.
reunions, stuff like that.
And
I
so
did see
when
a picture. Go ahead.
grown men are still boys or still kids, have a lot of time on their hands and they spend way too much time together.
I did see a picture. I don't know what event it was, but I did see a picture of Skip sitting on your lap. So I know you
Yeah.
guys have maintained that tight bond together.
Yeah, that's what we do. Just make sure I hadn't held him in a while, and we get together, and make sure that he's keeping that tight little figure still together.
Yeah, I'm not judging. I know Lance doesn't judge. So there are some cons to the World Baseball Classic. Okay, players are gone sometimes for a pitcher. If you're not on your regular work, you go back to spring training, and you're behind the curve a little bit. Just your sense of that, Lance. I mean, there are downsides outside of representing your country, which might be the greatest thing of all, but there is a downside to the World Baseball Classic for the participants, don't you think?
Yeah, I think you look at that, especially with even guys that not getting at bats. When I was there, you know, Bobby Witt Jr. didn't get a whole lot of playing time. And you look at him now, and he started off a little shaky that year. Guys aren't able to get some of the innings they need to. They're not able to throw on normal rest, or I say that they're not able to get their starters need to get at that time of the year and need to be throwing 3, 4 innings or 5, and you're not able to do that because either the game doesn't allow it and you're there to win. So there is some struggle with that. I think a lot of it too is the ramp up, right? You got to ramp up quicker than normal. So, like for me, the big thing going into that season was like I was in a spot where I had to go back and make a spring training start after throwing 2 World Baseball Classic games, and that was the most miserable start I've ever made trying to get ready. I was like, "Hey, you got to go throw 85 to 90 pitches to get ready for the season," and I was like, "Man, I went from throwing against Venezuela in the WBC in Miami where it was crazy to throwing in Goodyear, Arizona against the Reds." The last week of spring training when everybody's already out of town and done with their vacation. So it was a pretty light effort situation. But then in turnaround, you get into the season, you got to ramp back up. So I was a little bit worn out that first month of the season, to be honest with you, because it was like you were so ramped up and then you back down again and then you had to jump back up. So it is a tough time, and when you're away from your team for that long a time, the team camaraderie, especially with a lot of guys gone, it can get weird too to start the year because you're like coming back after playing for your country, and then you got to kind of reintegrate back into the team and try to build something pretty quick because you were gone most of spring training.
We could
Not
probably
a
show this episode after. next spring or no? Or no?
Yeah.
This is not an advertisement for the pitchers to join up here, Lance.
Right. No, I mean that's what I'm saying though. That's a tough time, but when I say I will never trade it in for anything, like that
Okay,
was
there
one
we
of
go.
like
Let's
that's
emphasize
it
that.
is it is it is tough,
Yeah.
but you have to be on board with it. And then I mean, if I were to, obviously it would be great to have multiple times to be able to do it, but I know like there's multiple ways you got to do it now and have a different idea going through it. So um, it was amazing time, but it is definitely you got to readjust everything that you do to try to be prepared for it, and then not only prepared for getting to it, but after it.
So I just tweeted World Baseball Classic Team USA hitting coach Matt Holliday rails against pitchers participating. That's fair, isn't it?
That's fine. No one follows you anyways.
100,000.
Wow.
Matt,
Is that true?
Matt,
Bots? How much did that cost you, Jim?
I don't buy. Listen, I'm thrifty. Okay, I don't buy anything.
Oh,
No,
shit.
but Matt, but on the positive side of this, as you're on the, you don't want Skip to beat you up, and you're on the coaching staff though. What an honor to be picked for that. And for some guys, it's not as easy as calling DeRosa and saying I'm on the staff like Lance. There's other guys who aren't Lance Lynn. It's got to be, the best thrill of all outside of maybe winning a World Series.
I mean, yeah, I think it's really cool because it's like, um, it's just one team. Like you make an all-star team, it's obviously two leagues, and there's roster size of 55, 50 more than 50 players. Where this is like, you're on the best of the best, and you're getting asked to represent your country. Um, and so I think it is a great honor, and to play. I got a chance to play in the first one, and my teammates were like King Griffey Jr. and Derek Jeter, and the list goes on. Roger Clemens, like it was I just finished my second year in the major leagues, and I'm in the clubhouse with Jeter and just legends, Chipper Jones, and so it is a great honor, and so I like Lance said, I think if we can find the right mix of pitchers, I think we have a great chance to. I think the position players. I mean, I can't imagine why outside of injury any position player would turn it down. So it'll be exciting.
The thrill of wearing the red, white, and blue, was it a different feel for you than, like, say, when you're with the Cardinals? I know both are great, but was it a different feeling representing the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always different just because you're representing the country, and it's almost like the Olympics for baseball. I mean, I think as far as I don't know what the Olympics will look like in LA and the next time that baseball comes back in as far as letting major league players participate, but historically this is the Olympics for baseball. And so you get a chance to suit up and the pride of representing your country against the other countries, and it is special. It is different, and it's an experience that everybody I think would want to have.
So we touched on something earlier, and I'm going to go to Lance on this one. Spring training. Baseball's evolved over the years. I think it used to be spring training is where guys got in shape. I think most guys report to spring training in shape, kind of knowing what the plan is. Maybe they needed some reps. So my question is spring training too long in the opinion of Lance Lynn?
I think it's too long, probably for position players and relievers. Starters need that build up. I think if you were to tell like Matt, you probably see spring training, you need a certain number at bats, and you're good with it, right? Pitchers like you and starters, you have to get on that 5 day, 6 day routine, and you got to start in it. So I think that's the reason why you get that long period right there. It's all about building up pitch counts, and you can't do it too quick. You can get in as much shape or throw as much as you want, but until you get into game action and multiple up downs as a starter, you can't you can't get the sorenesses, you can't get that feel by doing stuff on your own at home because it's just not the intensity, you can't get there. So I would say for all in all, spring training is probably too long, but starters need that. You need 5 starts. Whatever you can do to get 5 starts is kind of for me was kind of my number.
What you think, Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the length of it. I mean, I think they've got a good handle on it these days of playing position players. You know, early in spring training, there's no real rush. A couple at bats, game on, game off. Like I love spring training. I think it's an opportunity to be in baseball, working on your craft, but you're home to eat dinner almost every night with your family. Um, it's time at the beach if you're in Florida. It's opportunities to see friends on other teams if you're in Arizona. I mean, I always enjoyed spring training. I never really had much complaint about it being too long, especially as you're a veteran player. You know how to pace yourself. You know when to ramp it up, and I think the coaches and the organizations now, I think they understand that it's mainly the length of it is for the starting pitchers and how to make sure that the position players are in good shape to start the season without overdoing it. So I think it's in a good spot. I don't have any problem with the length of spring training.
And each game is very important. It's legend. I believe it's true. I don't know if you were around uh, for this happening, but your friend Skip Schumaker, who when he was a new player at the major league level, they called him Squeaks from the movie Basketball, and he actually, I'm told, went out on the field in a spring training game with a jersey that said Squeaks on the back. Is that true? Have
I
you
don't
heard that?
know. I have never heard that story, so I'm going to defer that to Lance. I
Have you
don't
heard that,
know.
Lance?
Well, I have not heard it that story, but you always know that in spring training there's some jokes that go around and stuff like that. I'm guessing that this was during his backup days when you had to come over from minor league camp and just sit there not knowing whenever you're going to play.
That
So
was
I'm sure someone put it on the back of his jersey. Whether I don't know who would have been the veteran uh, position player at
The
that
bully.
time, but that's
The
who was
bully.
it?
It was no. I'm saying it had to be a bully. You would think it'd be Holiday, but it was some. It had to be someone else. It's folklore. I was told that this actually happened, and as being an elderly investigative reporter, I tried to track it down. Then I got tired and took a nap. You know how it
yeah.
goes.
That sounds like
That
a
that
veteran
was
putting
pre
a name
Lance
on
and
the
I.
back of a jersey. Yeah, so that's
All
definitely
right.
wasn't us.
I think you guys would have heard it, so maybe it is just that folklore.
Was
But
it
I
that
want to
was that a Chris Carpenter doing back in the day?
might have
Maybe
been. I
maybe a
mean,
Matt Morris, or was that Skippy's time? Morris was probably gone, so it'd have been Carpenter, right?
could have
Carpenter's
been
show.
Carpenter. He's a
That could have
scary
been a
guy.
Jim Edmonds deal. That could have been a Jim Edmonds
That
type of deal.
screams Jimmy. That
Yeah.
screams Jimmy.
I'm gonna have to find. I'm gonna have to find. Maybe I will text Skip today. And of course, I didn't do the legwork for this show as usual, where I
Right.
could have had the information at my fingertips. But once again, I dropped the ball. But speaking of Cardinals, and by the way, Chris Carpenter to me, the scariest Cardinal. He once yelled at me like really bad in the clubhouse. We're fine now, but that was an intimidating guy. I couldn't imagine getting in the batter's box against him. He's a great pitcher. But speaking of pitchers, Cardinal pitching suddenly has taken off. I don't know how close you're watching it, but last time through the rotation, everyone's pitching really well. And Lance, you were there last year. What we see from Matthew Liberatore, who was really good out of the bullpen, right? Given a shot at starting again, he's had a number of starts, never really got traction as a starter. Looks different now. I don't know if you saw him pitch, but you've seen Liberatore. Tell me about his stuff and why everyone has remained really high on that young fella.
No, you're looking at a young lefty with good velocity, got the ability to throw multiple breaking balls in the strike zone and have chase. I think you're looking at last year out of the bullpen, and it's something I was able to do when I came up too. Is you go down the bullpen and you just pitch. You're able to just kind of use your stuff, understand how your stuff works, and then understand where it doesn't work, and then you understand as you go as a starter. Then you got to figure out, hey, one time through I can use this. Next time I got to be able to set something up with this. And I think for him, I think it went from overload of, hey, in the minor leagues, he just pitched, right? And then there wasn't a whole lot of game planning and all that. It's, hey, here's your strengths, go get it done. And when you first come up to the big leagues, it's like, hey, here's the game plan, here's what you got to do. And then sometimes, like, young kids aren't comfortable because they don't. that might not fit what they feel comfortable with and stuff like that. And you really can't say much. It's like, hey, thanks for the scouting report. They might be like, hey, you need to use your changeup. Like, dude, I don't have a changeup. And but it's weird how some of that stuff goes. People like it just doesn't work out the first time up. I think he's got to be able to have success in the bullpen, and now he's going to translate that into starting. Use what his strengths are, but also know the game plan on each hitter and figure out what his best stuff is to each hitter. And we were able to have a talk this offseason, him and I. So we were able to kind of go through, what he did well out of the bullpen and then what he struggled with as starting and how we can kind of replace that so he can have success throughout starts.
Matt, I know you watch a lot of Cardinals games. It was kind of weird, like they were slugging early, right? And then the starting rotation wasn't good. Now they've been great, and last night they had a huge win where they're doing everything. I think when you have a team with some young guys that are now kind of finding their legs, that's the way it's going to be this season. What do you think the Cardinals can be? What's your sense of this ball club?
Well, I mean, I think that they're playing pretty good. I mean, I think that the recipe for winning is some of these young guys in the rotation, and then you still have Sonny Gray as an anchor, and you got a guy like Fetty who's been around. I think their bullpen back into their bullpen is solid. So I think the recipe for winning games is going to be pitching and defense, and then I don't think they're going to hit a ton of home runs. They've had some early power production, but I think they're tough outs more than they are overly. Um, I think going to slug the ball. But I do think they have tough outs in the lineup. So it'll be interesting. I think that they have the potential to be one of those teams that's tough to beat, and that they're scrappy, and nobody really expected much, which I think sometimes is a good thing as far as guys kind of get that chip on their shoulder and want to come out and show that. And I think, in the past, a lot of teams would come into St. Louis and they knew they wanted to beat the best and they brought their A game, where now, I think the expectations on the national level is so low that maybe some of these teams don't think of the Cardinals as much of a competition, and they don't bring their A game. And next thing you know, they leave St. Louis and they drop 2 or 3 or get swept. I think it's a different place than a typical Cardinal team as far as what the league's expectations are. So so far, I think it's been pretty solid. It'll be interesting to see what some of these young guys do when they're not really looking over their shoulder as to whether they're going to play. They know they're in there, and it's kind of in their court to go out there and show what they can do.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. I've always been one fans that come to games. It's their money. Do what you want to do. Like you want to boo, you want to rip the team on social media. Like you're a fan. You do what you want. Yeah, it's your entertainment dollar. But they haven't been showing up, and it's been a big topic in St. Louis that the crowds are a little small. TV ratings, by the way, are up a little bit. That's because of me, so you're welcome. But are you surprised by that? I mean, that Cardinal fans who love this team, they want to see them play better. Now they got a young team that's got a lot more energy, and the crowds haven't been there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, a lot of it. I think it'll be interesting to see if they continue to play pretty good baseball when the school gets out and the weather warms up and it's more consistent, what those crowds look like. Especially if they continue to play a fun brand of baseball, which I think that they've shown. The young guys are showing emotion. There's been some good moments on the field that are fun to watch. I think the fans will support it if they continue to play like this. I think initially, there's sort of a backlash of not spending in the offseason and not really talking about wanting to compete and talking more about a rebuild and trying to get rid of salary and trying to trade Nolan and trying to offload guys that are making big money. So I think that obviously rubs the fan base wrong, and they don't want to support a rebuild. And they're not used to that. That's not something they want to be part of. But I think they love baseball. I think they love the Cardinals, and if it's an appealing product, and like I said, school gets out and the weather warms up, it is still a lot of fun to go to games at Busch Stadium, and particularly if you have a young team that's playing hard and being competitive and hanging around, maybe in the postseason race. I think the fans will come back.
Lance, do you want to call out the fan base for not showing up? Because you haven't called out anyone yet.
Yeah, no, and I understand their frustration, right? I live in Cardinal country. They, when I'm getting groceries and stuff like this, they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" When it's all said and done, in the Central, they could have definitely maybe maneuvered a little bit differently in free agency and had there was a lot of guys out there that were still available and still doing, especially with relievers and some bats that you can plug in and play in some places like this. But that being said, you're seeing the young guys that they want to see what they have play, and they're starting to succeed. So what Matt said, when they start winning games and keep winning games and doing those things and start, the young guys showing that emotion, and then the fans will get attached to them, like they were able to get attached to the John Jays, the Descalzos, and those guys because they came up and they were homegrown. So we're in that wave of, hey, who's our next homegrown core, right? So if you want to see that, come watch because that's what the Cardinals are trying to figure out. They said, all right, we've added all these things around over the past, but we need to find our homegrown young core. And that's what we're doing this year. And then we can figure out the direction we're going to go after that. So, that being said, guys are starting to show who they are and what they're about. And then you're going to see at the end of the year, there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that are like, hey, these are our guys. This is who we're going to build around, and then figure out who's going to be platoon guys around them and who we need to add to help those platoon guys be great at what they're going to do. And then the pitching, obviously if the pitching does well, you're going to win games. If you pitch and catch the ball, you're going to win games in the major leagues, especially if you have some timely hitting. They don't need anybody to hit 30 home runs. Everybody needs to figure out how I can hit 15 to 20, and then it might go to 25, but it goes from 220 to 250 at the average. And next thing you know, you got a really good squad 1 through 9, and they have that capability because that's how talented they are. But like you said, you got to let them play to see what they got, and that's what they're doing.
And Brent Brown has them taken really, really good at bats. I mean, fouling pitches off, waiting for a pitch they can handle. But one of the miscalculations that the front office make was about Nolan Arenado. They talked about runway for the young players, and part of that runway is occupied by Nolan Arenado. And at spring training, it was kind of weird because is he going to be here? Well, okay, he was at spring training. He's going to be traded. He's still here. And I could tell by talking to his teammates, everyone was kind of glad that Nolan was back because he's such a good guy and a really, really good player. And now we're seeing, I mean, defensively this year, he's been off the charts. Last night, he had a big game. But he's a friend of yours, Matt. I know that you know him pretty well. But if you can have Nolan Arenado, all of a sudden it changes the complexion to me of what kind of ball club you could be because you know that third base isn't a question mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always good to have like a superstar player to lean on for young guys. They have somebody that, you know, everybody's confident when the ball's hit to the left side of the field when you got Nolan Arenado and Mason Wynn. It's a good feeling to have somebody that's that good that when the ball's hit over there, it's that play is made. It's a good feeling to have a guy that's hit 40 homers and played on all-star teams, and to be able to plug him into the lineup and then kind of work from there. That's a good feeling for a team. Like I think that when you have somebody like that, it allows for everybody around him to settle into the right place. And so I think they're finding ways to get all the guys at bats that I don't think that him being back is really hindering any of the young players' runway that maybe was discussed. And so, look, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, and the Cardinals still want to cut his his cut payroll, and I think his value is going to go back up. And so even if I think everybody wants him to play really well, whether you end up trading him or just want him to play well because maybe you wind up finding yourself and in July you find yourself in a pennant race where you have a chance to be a wild card, and now you're looking to add instead of subtract. And so, um, I look. I think he's motivated. He wants to play well. He wants to prove that his defense hasn't slipped. That he can still hit 25 to 30 homers and be an all-star caliber player. So I actually think it's worked out quite well that he's still there.
He's playing well, no question. And Lance, you were there last year. He had a down year. He put a lot of it on himself. He said, "Look, we didn't play well. I didn't play the way I could be." But I don't know too many guys who are more professional in the way they went about it than Nolan Arenado. You were with him. What was it like being teammates with him last year when things weren't going great?
Oh, man, he's a true professional, right? Like every day he comes in, he's got his routine. He knows what he's doing, knows what he's about. And these young guys are starting to learn, like, hey, just because you came up and have a certain way to do it, like you can learn something from him. He's not afraid to sit there and answer questions or talk hitting and all that. So you're talking about a young lineup. When you have a guy like that that's just in the clubhouse and hitters meetings and stuff like that, that's huge for those guys going into games and then also building throughout the year. They build their routines, they build their prep work, they know what the pitcher's got, they know what they're trying to handle. That goes a long way. And to have a guy like that around, especially when you lose Goldie, and if you were going to lose both of them and then just throw the rest of these guys out there with nothing there, that could have been trouble too. So having him still around, having a new hitting coach that's able to, maybe bring in some new verbiage, new philosophy, new mindsets a little bit, and you're seeing some of these guys kind of, take it to a new level, and that's what it's all about.
Matt, when you're friends with a player that's struggling, is there a boundary? Like if you see something, you're watching a game, like let's say it was last year, and you're noticing Nolan's pulling off, the ball or something. Is there a boundary where you're like, yeah, I want to text him this, but he's got enough people around him in his ear. Maybe this isn't going to help. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's all about like the verbiage of it. Like, hey, I know that he's one of those guys that's always he's willing to listen, searching for what's wrong, and so I know that he's watching video. Um, so yeah, I mean, if I see something, it's like I said, it's about how you say it. Like, hey, um, I've been seeing this maybe compared to the past. Maybe just try this in your pregame work, or mostly it'd be I would call him before a text. I wouldn't try to suggest anything over text. I might call him and just say, "How you feeling?" and then start the conversation of, well, how does that feel? Well, what would this feel like if you maybe moved this, a little bit, or just whatever that you might see, um, with the respect of how hard the game is. So yeah, it's easy for me sitting in my living room watching it on TV, but I haven't forgotten how hard it is. And there's sometimes when you see something and you need to change it, but you still can't do it. So it's like the respect that I have for how hard it is combined with like how much I respect him as a player. I think he respectfully might just say, "Hey, if you want my opinion, I have something. If not, I totally get it." And so I think it's all about like how you present something like that to a guy like Nolan.
When you were playing, Matt, and you were in a slump, or I don't recall you ever being in a slump, but
Never.
you had your share. Do you have people coming out of the woodwork trying to help you through it? And is it too much noise sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's coming from a good place most of the time. I mean, everybody wants you to have success, so it's not offensive. I mean, I think that there's times when um, yeah, you could listen to too many people, or you could get away from who you are, as far as just like trying too many things. Sometimes it's just best to go back to your work and make sure that your preparation is good. And then when you get in the game, you're not thinking about mechanics, that it's all about the competition. I think we get in trouble when we take the mechanical thoughts, or we're questioning what we're doing in the game, and we forget about the one-on-one competition between you and the pitcher. And so I think, yeah, if you let it get too crowded or you're listening to too many people, everybody, you know, has an opinion, and really, I think most of the time, like I said, it's coming from a good place, but you have to, kind of figure out who you want to listen to and what you want to do, and then, like I said, make sure you're not you're losing sight of the competition of the game.
So, Lance, you're still friends with some of the guys that are currently pitching for the Cardinals. If you see something, are you texting, or is there for you a boundary where like there's people there to help them?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? You want if you see something that's glaring or something like that, you might. Well, I mean, for me, I just a lot of these guys that I'm close with, I still talk to in a daily and stuff like that. So it's just like most of the time you're asking what you're feeling, or like if they usually come to you, be like, man, I'm feeling this or something like that, just because you're. For me, I was in the clubhouse with them last year, and like with Libby, him and I had a good talk and quite a few talks last year about stuff. So he'll still call me and be like, "Hey, when you said this, what did you mean?" Like last year, right? Because he's such a student of the game, right? And then so you're just like, okay, this is what I was talking about. And then when it pertains to you, like, what do you feel here and stuff like that. So kind of like you said, you just got to have that relationship with him first of actually like being there for them, and you don't ever want to call them and be like, hey, you're doing this wrong, because we all know that that's like, hey, it's enjoy the couch, I don't want to hear your crap. But you also, if you see something that is obvious, or like, I mean, I've seen guys like tipping on TV in a TV game, and you're like, hey, most for me, I'll you just be like, hey, you're tipping that pitch every time, and like that's like, okay, that's a no doubter, because that's the easiest one ever. Be like, hey, your stuff looks great, don't worry about it, but you're tipping the pitch every time. That's why they're taking good swings off of it. You clean that up, everything's fine. Kind of give them the satisfaction of knowing, hey, you're all right. It's just this little thing that you're tipping or something like that. Something that small could go huge.
Pitch tipping. Jim Edmonds was like brilliant at that. I never saw someone who was able to figure it out so quickly. Did he ever help you? And then are there other guys in your experience that you saw who were great at picking up little tells like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like Albert was really good at it. You had guys. I mean, guys had every different little tells. But when I was there, the starting rotation was always watching bullpens, always watching games. Kyle Gibson was always locked in on you and the other pitcher, trying to help out the offense and stuff like that. So you always there's always a couple guys on each team that you pay attention to it. To make sure that there's certain things are locked in where they need to go, so you're not giving the hitters anything. Because as you know, if a hitter can eliminate a pitch or a side of the plate, you're in trouble. So that's the main thing that I tell all the pitchers: don't let them eliminate a pitch for you, and don't let them eliminate a side of the plate, and you should be all right.
Matt, how good were you at picking up a tell, and who were some of the guys that you played with that were experts at that?
I was terrible at it. Guys would be like, "Yeah, you see it." I mean, when he's like this on his fastball and he's like this on his off speed, and I'm like, that literally looks like the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So there's times where I'd get in there and think I saw something, and it'd be the opposite pitch, and I'd just be like, "Okay, I can't. This is too much. I don't. I just need to stick with a very simple approach." So I was not good at it, and even if I thought it was right, I just wasn't all in on it. So I early in my career, I just had to like, okay, this doesn't really work for me. But I did, like Lance said, we play with a lot of guys that they had conviction in what they saw, and they were really good at it. I mean, Albert was really good at it. I'd heard about Jim Edmonds, that he was locked in on it, and there's guys that see stuff and watch tape and think they have something, and that's the thing. Like, if you believe it, then go for it. But I was never sold out that I could actually, a lot of times some of it happens too late too. Like, you could see stuff, but by the time that tip had happened, it was, they're already, the ball's on the way, and it's not a usable tip. So they're pretty good about hiding to make sure and they're not tipping, and I wasn't good about seeing it.
Different approach, I guess. Some guys can use the information, other guys just want to do what they normally do. Last thing, we got a late start because Matt had a problem don't want to rehash that again.
We can. No, we
But
can.
all right, I was able to use the link.
Go
Lance
ahead.
was able to, and then Matt had a little problem. But anyway, so all respect to the coaches that have helped you along, Matt. I'll start with you. That have helped you with your hitting. Is there one guy that you call when you want to fine tune something or you something just isn't right? Is there one guy that has stayed with you throughout your entire career that he was kind of the guy you would call for help?
Yeah, I mean, mostly my brother. My brother really helped me with my hitting between when I was in the minor leagues. When the year that I kind of figured it out, kind of clicked for me. I spent a lot of time in the cage that off season with him, and a lot of the verbiage that he was able to help me with really made sense in my mind, and really kind of helped me turn the corner from minor league player to having a really good spring training and a good Arizona fall league, and ended up making the team that year. And he's known me since I was little and has seen my swing progress over the years. And he was the one that I think really kind of, if I was off, was really good about helping me kind of find what was off. I mean, I had great hitting coaches along the way that were very helpful. But I'd say when push came to shove, if I couldn't figure out quite what I was doing, I was gonna lean heavily on Josh.
Yeah, that's what I mean is that there's got to be a common thread, someone to always call. Depending on what team you're with, there's always that guy there. For Lance, was there one guy? You've been with a number of teams. Yeah, this guy, I'm going to always check with that guy. Who is it?
For me, it's similar to Matt. I had a pitching coach named Jay Lear who still works with high school kids and college kids and professional kids up in Indianapolis at Pro X. And still to this day, I've been with him since I was 12 years old. He did my off-season throwing programs. I'd still go to him in the winter time and stuff like that. And we just slowly built over the years, right? And there's things that you were doing before that might be causing certain things to go right, and you just slowly build. And like Matt said, my dad was smart enough at when I was 12 years old to say, "Hey, I've got you everything I know." So he pushed me off on Jay, and been my guy since then. And anytime I would go through a stretch or something like that, he's my first call. What do you see? What are you feeling? And I tell him what I'm feeling, and he knew my terminology, and I knew his, and we were able to kind of iron things out.
Boys, that's going to put a wrap on this edition. You were great. Don't you feel like we're really coming together as a unit, fellas?
We've one day we'll start on time, but other than that, we're rolling once we get rolling.
I think isn't there supposed to be another member of this? Is
Gibson
We're going
really,
to,
really locked into that playing thing. It pisses me off.
Yeah, but I
it's
mean,
good.
I feel like when I played, I didn't really. It wasn't this locked in. I could definitely
Well, you
make.
got to think he's still in 3A. He's grinding.
He's
Like
grinding.
right now. What
He's grinding in 3A, trying
We'll
to
what do you
get,
get.
look,
do?
we'll,
What do you do at AAA on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock? Like, what is there something going on I don't know about these days?
Knowing Kyle, he's probably taking them all to lunch and being one of those really super nice guys. It's
he's a
like it's
mentor.
super pick me move.
He's a mentor. Boys,
Fair enough.
thanks for the time. We'll see you next time. And that's going to do it for this edition of Serving It Up. Next time, hopefully it won't be awful.